really great to have all of you back on our show in the air, only on Cricket Tracker. I'm joined in also by my cricket guests, Prateek Tiwari and Prateek But. We'll get talking to them, but let's find out ki action kahan pe ho raha hai. Of course, it's a little bit of a late start today. We'll tell you the reason if you don't know that in a bit. This is going to be happening at the Warner Park in St. Kitts. This is the second T20I. The first T20I, of course, was won by India by 68 runs. For some reason, there is already celebrations around me. So I don't know if that's an indication कि शायद second T20I में India जीत लेगा. लेकिन we'll come, get talking about, what is really going to be panning out for the second T20I. We'll start off with Prateek. Prateek, great to have you back on the show. Let's start off with you summarizing the first T20I, the confidence that India would have going into the second game. But do you think in the second one, would you like to see changes from either side?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a different surface. Warner Park, it's a pace-friendly pitch. In the first T20, it demanded more spinners, which is why India went for three spinners. And this time, I think there's a good chance that Harshal Patel might come back into the team for a spinner, one of the three spinners. I don't see India making any other changes.
All right, that is Prateek's first takeaway about changes. आप सबको क्या लगता है? Do you think either of the sides should be making changes? If yes, what should they be in your opinion? Tell me that in the comments. Coming over to Professor Prateek, the first T20 काफी confidence से जीता team India ने. पर अभी West Indies के लिए क्या करना होगा? Of course, like you have said, even in the ODI, it was just not coming together. Although individual performances, some of them were fantastic. The execution as a whole is probably not coming together for them. But changes, in your opinion, any? Should there be? If yes, what?
Well, see, for the part of what they need to do exactly, that is exactly what their captain is also urging them to do, that convert their starts. I mean, even in the previous game, you don't want yourself to give no fight. Even if you're losing games, you still want yourself to fight out and you still want to compete, because the previous game was a kind of a game where you just nothing going their way and kind of just giving up or kind of just putting yourself into submission. So I think that is not the way to play the games. No team would want to do that. As for changes, I think yes, as Prateek already mentioned, for India, I think one of the changes could be dropping another spinner, because this is a pace-friendly track. You might not want to go with three. For West Indies, I think maybe another one. I think Odin Smith, he has a bit of a role clarity issue at the moment, because he's not one of those players who is finishing games, not one of those who's bowling for his entire quota of overs. There's Brandon King as well, Romario Shepherd, who is coming back in. So those players are another ones to watch out for. But I think this side is still a young side. But with the World Cup, as we have constantly, that is what the narrative has been dominated by in that year. It's a great chance again to kind of test their combinations. And of course, this is a 5-game series. So still, West Indies would still feel that, okay, even if they can kind of win this one, they still have 3 games to go. And because in 3 games, if you lose the first one, then it becomes really tricky for you. But this being a 5-game series, they still might want to fancy their chances. And it's a number one side they are up against. So of course, the challenge is going to be high, but then again, you cannot rule West Indies out, because this is, of course, their stronger format, and it's a fickle format, as we always say. You never know what can happen, so you cannot entirely rule them out still.
All right, I have a couple of more questions in terms of combination statements that have also come from ex-cricketers. What is that about, Team India selection? A few have questioned the same. We'll get talking about that in a little bit. But before that, let's take a quick look at the head-to-head as well as the approaching milestones for today's game. And let's look at where they're standing currently. Out of the 21 matches, India have a slight upper hand, having won 14, West Indies 6, and no result 1. In the approaching milestones that we have on our screens, Ravindra Jadeja is one scalp away from reaching the milestone of 50 wickets in T20I. Pooran requires 5 fours to get 100 fours. Rohit Sharma needs 44 runs to reach the landmark of 16,000 runs across formats. All right. And Hardik Pandya requires 2 scalps to get 50 wickets in T20Is. Shreyas Iyer requires 69 runs to complete 1,000 runs in T20Is. And Hetmeyer requires 6 fours to get to 54s in the shortest international format. All right, these are the approaching milestones. If you all want to tell me which one is possible, tell me that in the comments. Now, I quickly want to talk about one name out there which was on the approaching milestones. Venkatesh Prasad had this rather interesting statement to question that why is Shreyas Iyer in the scheme of things. That question, I will come to Prateek to you about. And the other question being, Chris Srikanth was questioning about the fact that why wasn't Deepak Hooda selected in the first T20I? That I'll come to Prateek to you on it. So first I'll come to you, Prateek. What is your take about the fact that, a lot of the discussion is when you have people like Sanju Samson, Deepak Hooda, who have proved themselves, is it right, fair enough to give someone like Shreyas Iyer? an opportunity yet again, or do you think people are just criticizing too soon? What is your take?
I think people are criticizing too soon. Yes, India has great number of players to choose from, so this kind of debate is always going to be there. If you look at Shreyas Iyer alone, he's a quality player, and we have seen him perform well time and again in the IPL. Yes, he's going through a bit of slump, I could say, but then again, I think he's a quality player, and he can't be written off too soon. Uh, which is why I think he's been backed to be in the team, rightly so. And yeah, other names that you mentioned, like Deepak Huda, Sanju Samson, uh, they haven't played a lot of games either. So it's too early to say that they, deserve a place in the team over someone like Shreyas Iyer who has performed for years. Yes, Deepak Huda is on a good run of form. Whether he deserves to be in the team or not, that's another topic altogether. But whether he deserves to be in the team over Shreyas Iyer, I'm not too sure about that. And Sanju Samson is again another player who is looking to get a good run of games and get the consistency as well with it. To me, Shreyas Iyer, who has been performing for the last couple of years or so, I think deserves to get yet another chance to be in the team. Yeah, that's my take on him
All
being
right.
in the team.
Okay, so fair enough. Probably, not to be criticizing too soon if that's how, one cricket fan would like to look at it. What do you all think? Is everybody too quick to be criticizing the fact that Shreyas Iyer is not capitalized on a lot of his opportunities? We know how he did well in another, format like the Test when he debuted last year against New Zealand. But talking about criticism, that's definitely going to happen, Pratay, with the fact that we've spoken about the problem of plenty. So you have these names doing the round. And I think for someone like Venkatesh Prasad to actually tweet that, saying, like I pointed out, but Dusri Taraf, even Chris Srikanth making it very clear, because the reason he also made that statement, he said that India does need all rounders. And he feels like if someone like Deepak Huda has actually proved his caliber in the ODIs, why are you not giving more all rounders a chance? Do you agree with him? Do you kind of have the same viewpoint?
To an extent, yes, because but we do not have to forget one thing that often, I mean, what happens with all of us is that we are kind of clouded with a recency bias. Because Deepak Huda has had a sensational run in the IPL, then we saw him doing what he did against Ireland, a century. Not too many players have gotten that. And in this format, I mean, in a century in T20I, it's not a mean feat. You don't get that on a regular occasion. Then a fluent knock he played in the first T20I against England, 33 of 17, if I remember it correctly. So yes,
Yeah.
he has kind of auditioned well, and there's no reason why you would not want to have him in your side. But I always say that there are still 11 that you can field. You cannot play 15 or 18 just because you've got a talented bunch of players. So that is where you have to understand. For a year, I think the one particular thing that kind of worries me a little bit is the fact that his problem against the short ball, it's well seen, it's well documented. And given the fact that you're going to play in Australia, the World Cup, where you are going to be peppered with short balls, where you're going to be tested against that, that can actually come to haunt him. Deepak Huda, on the other hand, I think one thing that really works against in his favor rather is one that he can of course bat at any position. He's kind of very flexible. The intent that he shows, he is someone who can give you that, give you that strike rate of say 160, 170, 180 even on his day. And the fact that he contributes with the ball, because we have been listening this, I mean, that in this particular era, we do not have the Tendulkars, the Gangulis who could have rolled their arms over. So in your top five, top six, who are the players who can actually, you can turn to them to be your sixth or seventh bowler, or kind of give you maybe a couple of overs here and there if another bowler of yours is having an off day. On that particular occasion, Shreyas Iyer won't be one of the choices that you can turn to, because he is not someone who bowls. But with Huda giving his handy sort of an off spin, he becomes a better option. But I think that this, as I said, that whatever games that are now left, because three are coming against Australia as well, there's Asia Cup as well. So I think in those games, you will have to see how these players are responding to those challenges. And as I said, one thing that we'll have to keep in mind is that all the cricket that India is going to play is rather being in subcontinental conditions from hereafter. Whereas when you
Right.
go to Australia, the conditions are going to change drastically. So I think all those factors are also to be kept in mind. But I think, yes, of course, Chris Srikanth, he is allowed, of course, to have his opinion. I mean, it's an endless debate. I mean, there are so many players. We all have so many preferences. It's really hard to kind of, just bog down to 11 players.
Correct. And talking about a debate, I also saw that debate where people were talking about the fact that Virat Kohli is not part of the Zimbabwe tour. So one side said, great that he's getting rest. The other side was like, how much rest is enough rest? So debate to hota rahega. You can't please all sides. But I'll take a quick question from here from Vignesh. I'll come to Pratik about this. With a good amount of CPL games held at this venue and an average winning total is around 140, 150 here, do you think West Indies might play an extra spinner, Pratik?
Spinner. I doubt that. Given that Warner Park is a pace-friendly surface, it has a pace-friendly surface. I think going with another spinner is not something I'm sure of, but definitely I think with the kind of talent they have as far as paces are concerned, they will have plenty to choose from. If anything, I would think they would go with four paces and a spinner, a specialist spinner. I'm not too sure about going with another spinner. Yeah, I think India would do the same, like I've mentioned before. India would go with an extra pacer, and likelihood one of the three spinners would be dropped, and Harshal Patel would come in. Yeah, I'm not too sure about another spinner coming in on a surface like this one.
All right, so that is Crick Tracker's, cricket guest prediction कि क्या changes हो सकता है. आप सबको क्या लगता है? Tell me in the comments. Pratik, would you want to answer that as well? Do you have a quick take on it before we move on to our next segment?
Uh, Perhaps I think they might want to slot in Hayden Walsh, maybe, just maybe, because I think in the previous game, I think it was one of those occasions when I felt that the reading of the track was different, because you see that India going with a troika of spinners three, whereas West Indies played only one, Joseph. So I think maybe because of that, if they want to add in one just to give a little bit more dash of a spin, because of course, having said that, I mean, this is a track that we know is pacer friendly. But on these kind of tracks, it's also not one of those venues which is very high scoring. So you might just want to give a dash of spin. If that is how the management of West Indies thinks, they might just want to slot in the leg spin of Hayden Walsh. Otherwise, I don't think that they would want to make too many changes, because it's just one game. Yes, it was a thumping defeat that they took, but they still
Yeah.
might want to kind of keep the combination intact and maybe check it out for another couple of games before they kind of start to making too many changes.
All right, there's a question also coming in as to game kab shuru hoga. The latest update being that it was supposed to start at 10 p.m. IST, but now the update coming in that it's going to start at 11 p.m. IST. We'll wait and watch if there are any more updates regarding this. Also, Harsh has asked us the question, or rather said that he has great knowledge of cricket and he would like to join the debate as well. Well, if you have a question that you want to put across to Pratay or Pratik, और अगर या आप एनालिसिस करना चाहेंगे सेकंड T20I का जरूर कीजिए, मैं वो क्वेश्चन लूंगी. But coming back to the game, both Pratik and Pratay have given us the answers of what Vignesh's question was, but what West Indies might make a choice in terms of their bowling option. But talking further about the game, let's find out who are the players to watch out for from both the teams. Let's see India की तरफ से और West Indies की तरफ से किसकी नजर होगी सबकी. Shreyas Iyer is a player to watch out for. In 43 matches, he has 931 runs. 74 not out being his highest in T20Is, all right. And the player to watch out for from West Indies would be Shimron Hetmeyer, 43 matches, 680 runs, 81 not out highest. Would the both of you go with the same names? I'll come to you, Pratik, first. Player to watch out for, would it be Shimron and Shreyas for you?
Not too sure. Yeah, but these two are talented cricketers again who have batted in different positions throughout their career, which is why the numbers might not look that great. Shreyas Iyer, yeah, in this series he's been batting in the top order, but he has batted at number 4, number 5 at times, which is why with all the chopping and changing in T20s, it is hard to have uh, numbers that look great. It's about what they come in and do it in the given situation. And I think time and again, Shimron Hetmeyer, yeah, he has delivered. He has played some match-winning innings when the team required him to come in come in and just dictate the pace of the innings. He's someone who has done that in the past. In doing that, okay, yeah, it's not something that you can always do. Sometimes you get out for fewer runs. Sometimes you win the games. Yeah, is he an exciting player? Yes, he is, which is why he is a player to watch out for. And as far as Shreyas Iyer is concerned, I think, yeah, once again, when he gets going, he's a great player to watch.
All right, so these are the two players to watch out for हमारी तरफ से. क्या आपको यही नाम लगते हैं या कोई और? मुझे बताएं in the comment section. The two teams haven't reached the ground yet, so which is why, as of now, sources are saying that's why it's not starting before 11 p.m. For once, I think Pratyay and me will be very happy कि बारिश नहीं है reason for any match to be starting late या getting disrupted on a lighter note. We'll also take a quick look at key player battles क्या है इस match में, what we can look forward to. And let's find out which batter and bowler will be up against each other to make this game really interesting. It's going to be Rohit versus Holder. 25 runs. Rohit has managed to score 2 dismissals. Dusri taraf, we have just one player battle to watch out for. We know that Rohit has been in good form in the first T20I, Pratyay, 64 runs that he did contribute, hoping that the skipper performs once again. What do you think? Let's talk about Captain Rohit a little bit. What do you think the approach is going to be this time around for him? Any changes that you think he would surely be looking to do in terms of youngsters? So many combinations, right?
Yes, indeed. I think Rohit, he has not been in the greatest of forms this year, but I think the previous game was a great exhibition of hitting on a difficult track, because it was not one of those tracks where you could have hit the ball at will. Even if you were a Rohit Sharma, it still was not one of the easiest tracks to bat on. And on those kind of tracks, when you play those kind of innings that he did, 44 ball 64, I think that does a great good to your confidence, I think, because when you're not amongst the runs, even if you've scored 10,000, even if you have played 200 games for the country, you still want to score runs in every single game. And
Yeah.
that is how exactly you keep on earning your confidence. As for the approach, I think what we are seeing with India is that they have kind of adopted to this the slam bang approach that we have seen England doing so well, that now they kind of just do not take the foot off the accelerator no matter what. So we have seen, I mean, in that approach, of course there's going to be a downside. You might just end up collapsing on 3 days out of 10, but when it clicks on 7, that is how you want it to fire for you. So I think that is one interesting approach that we have seen even in the series against England. We saw Virat Kohli, I mean, not of course being the Virat Kohli we know him to be. I mean, that has been the case for now 2.5 years. But the
Right.
Virat Kohli, even when he was failing, there was a clear-cut indication of what he is trying to do, because you saw him, I mean, stepping out against bowlers, trying to take the aerial route. That too, when he's just in like 4 or 5 balls, you hardly ever see Virat Kohli doing that kind of thing. And now we are seeing that with increasingly with every single batter in the 11. And also on the front of experimentation, I think yes, we might agree or disagree, but I think the move of trying Pant, trying Surya Kumar Yadav at the opening slot, all these things are showing that okay, India is trying to kind of figure out something. They're kind of trying to maybe have a plan of sorts. And Rohit, of course, is a key element in that, not just because he's a captain, but because he's one of the most reliable players for the Indian team in the last decade or so. So I think it's always good if he is in form, and he's one of the match winners for your side. So of course, but one more interesting point that he recently in the last press conference that he pointed out was that what we see with England or some other sort of teams is that they are slightly, there's a touch of stubbornness with their approach, that even if the conditions are not allowing you to play that brand of cricket, that aggressive brand of cricket, they still sort of persist with it. That is why perhaps England ended up collapsing in the first ODI that we saw in the previous series. But what I personally liked about Indian approach is that he has urged the batters to kind of assess the situations and then go for the hard bang, because you can always not play that kind of cricket on every surface. So I think that
Right.
that is a very calculated way to look at things. And of course, we know he's a great captain, he's a great thinker, and I think that numbers are telling for him. 15-16 ODI, 15-16 wins on the trot. It's not something that you see happening often. So I think it's coming out well for him at the moment.
Right, and captaincy looks like it suits Rohit Sharma quite well, even in the Indian jersey. But दूसरी तरफ, lot of reactions coming about the fact that the match was first supposed to start at 8 p.m. and that was because of the fact that the luggage hadn't arrived on time. Now the teams have not arrived on the ground as yet, which is why it's been postponed to 11 p.m. So I see social media being divided on this. Some actually are seriously saying that this is not the first time that's happened when West Indies has been hosting. So the controversial question being, should points be deducted, for West Indies in terms of should they dock the points off? Do you all agree with that? Tell me in the comments. This is of course a logistics issue, but दूसरी तरफ, let's find out कि इस game के बारे में purely लोग क्या tweet कर रहे हैं? What are they tweeting about on social tracker? Let's head over to our segment. Sunrisers Hyderabad having tweeted 2 more weightlifting gold medals for India. And they posted a picture of both of them who have won. That is Achinta Shauli in men's 73 kgs and Jeremy as well, who has won in men's 67 kg. This is at the Commonwealth Game 2022. Jasprit Bumrah has tweeted better together every step of the way, having tweeted Sanjana Ganesan as well. Me waiting for the match to start. Yeah, clearly all of us are Mr. Bean at the moment. Sane kids have no kids. Well, rightly said, Gopi Krishna. Well, thanks for that. Everybody who's tweeted with all your amazing memes. So I think it's a combination of all of us standing like Mr. Bean and also waiting for the kids to probably arrive very soon in Same Kids. But before we, wrap up, the quick update for everybody being that the match is going to be starting at 11 p.m. So this is a quick update on what we had, in the pre-match show, only on Trick Tracker's special show in the air. But before we leave, let me ask my cricket guests what prediction they would like to make. Do you think it's going to be 2-0, Pratik? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, of course. Indians have won the game, won the first game, and West Indies, on the other hand, they lost the ODI series, got whitewashed, and here once again they started badly. Indians will come into the game as the favorites. Yeah, just for the simple reason that for that reason, Indians will win this
Win?
game.
Okay, so probably momentum will get them going, is what Pratik would like to state. On that very same note, unfortunately, we won't be able to talk about what combinations both the teams will be looking like. But don't worry, we'll join you tomorrow to be discussing everything to do with what really panned out here. We'll be as excited as all of you as well to be discussing it. So don't forget to join us only on Trick Tracker special show in the air. I want to thank both Pratik and Pratik for joining me. We will see you on the other side, only on Trick Tracker.